What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Randy here with RTS Mobile Gaming, bringing you a fantastic video today. In today's video, we are playing Lord of the Rings, Rise to War, and you guessed it, we are doing the Commander Spotlight for the Witch King. This guy is my absolute favorite commander on both good and evil, having played quite a few of them in my time. This guy is the ultimate glass cannon. He is the 100% embodiment of the best defense is a good offense, because he has no defense. He only has offense, and he is a monster, okay? He is one of the highest damage-dealing commanders in the game. He really has very little CC, next to no defensive capabilities, no healing restorative abilities, and no avoidance abilities. He is pure damage incarnate, okay? So, give me the like and sub. We're going to start off by blitzing through a few combat reports here, showing you some of his potential, and then we're going to walk through the build. Let's rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so first things first, I've got a fight here against Estelle, one of the leaders for the Rohan Where Was Gondor group here in Server 6. Shout out to Estelle. He's been a great PvP opponent in the recent battles. This is a combat report where I blasted him in the face. Okay, as you can clearly see, the Witch King level 50 versus Gimli level 50. He does have very strong equipment here, 2 and 3 star purples. Okay, of course, my Witch King has 4 and 5 star equipment here, so he's slightly better equipment, but basically apple to apples level and respect-wise, okay? Now, into the combat report itself. You can see that the Witch King did absolutely enormous damage his units did absolutely enormous damage compared to my damage received. Like I said before, the whole build with this guy is there is no defense. It's all offense. You have to kill the enemy immediately or you die. If I do not kill the enemy army in the first couple turns, I die. I will lose the fight. And that's what we're doing here. So, as far as the army that I'm currently using in this particular attack, 5,600 alchemists, which are going to be dealing an average of 39 burn damage per attack. Okay, they deal decent damage there. I've got some berserkers in here who are going to do an average of 25 physical damage per attack. They're also going to get stun immunity and a big damage boost in the beginning of the round. Okay, and then I've got Corsairs as well. To complement the burn damage build. These guys are much tankier than the Alchemists. They do a little bit lower damage output than the Alchemists, but they're much faster and much tankier. 100% burn damage on attack. And of course, they do have that nice 10% chance to avoid damage, which when it does trigger, can save you 5,000 or 6,000 damage, if not more. So you need a good mixture of these guys. You need the Berserkers or Halberdiers. We'll talk about that in a minute. Combined as your front line, you need at least 2,000 to 3,000 of those. The rest of your army is going to be Nukers or the Alchemists, okay? And you can see that the damage output, the 2,200 Berserker Corsair combination did about 74,000 damage, and my Alchemists did a little bit more than double that. They had a little bit higher, maybe a 15-20% higher damage output than the Berserkers and Corsairs combined, okay? Into the report itself, I'll give you a real quick snippet. This is how Witch King does his damage in the first 2 rounds. Okay, he activates Ring Wraith, which is one of his abilities, which increases the damage received, burn, poison, and focus damage received by the enemies by 30%. And then he also has Black Captain, which is going to increase the damage dealt by my Alchemists, Berserkers, and Corsairs by 30%. He also has Convener, which is going to give me a 75% chance in the first 2 rounds to attack twice. So obviously you can see 60% damage boost to the Alchemists and a 75% chance to attack twice. Okay, let's see here. We're just going to go down to the Alchemist attack. Here's the Corsairs with the double strike. Okay, we've got just short of 20,000 damage here, 19,022 damage coming out of the Corsairs. Berserkers coming in, no double strike here, but decent damage. And here is the Alchemists, the real nukers of the build, coming into action. You can see a 42,592 damage strike here, with a second attack from Convener for another 26,000 damage. That puts my total damage output from the Alchemists up at just under 70,000 damage, okay? So The Convener doesn't always proc. If it doesn't, you can be in the 26 to 45, even up to the 70,000 damage range if you can max out your nuke. But this is where we're at, okay? So, that is the whole point of the build. The first 2 turns, you need to kill all of the enemies. Every one of them must die. If they don't die, you're going to die because you have no defense whatsoever for your poor alchemists, which have 16 defense and 32 health. They will absolutely explode within 2 seconds, okay? That is the first report we're looking at. The next report is going to be another one from Estelle. Shout out to Estelle, bringing in the 50s. This guy can grind it out. He's got multiple level 50 commanders. We're not going to go into quite as much detail here, but you can see, again, enormous damage output, very little damage received, okay? The breakdown is similar to before. You have maybe a 15-20% higher damage per unit output from alchemists compared to the corsairs or the berserkers, okay? So they are a little bit of a higher glass cannon damage output unit. Next report we've got against a Gandalf, okay? This is another good. This is Fop Salapsa. This guy used to be on Gondor, and we beat him into the ground so much that he switched over to Rohan, but he's been a great opponent as well. Here again, we can see enormous damage output in the first couple rounds. Again, we've got the Corsair and the Berserker front line with the Alchemists behind them. I didn't put enough of a front line, which is why I took so much damage in this fight. If I had another 200 or 300 frontline units, my Alchemists would have lived a little bit better, and I would have had even more damage output, okay? But you can see absolutely dominating. The Witch King is a monster, okay? And you can counter the Witch King. He is counterable. I've been countered by a level 46 commander, by a 48 commander. I lost one of the fights. I drew on one of the fights, so it is doable. Here's a fight against Estelle, who is the leader for this Rohan group. Shout out to Estelle. Okay. In this one, I actually had run out of troops, and I had switched almost primarily to Corsair units. I'd run out of Alchemists and Berserkers. Here you can see, again, enormous damage output. Not quite as nice as the Alchemists. The Corsairs, like I said, are going to do 15%, 20% less damage per unit, okay? In this particular one, it was even more lopsided. I must have had some good RNG rolls with the Alchemists. So, those are the reports. Let's get into the build. You can see how the magic happens. Let's rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, first off, the Witch King is a leader. He gets 5 command, which means he gets 5 additional units, okay? Gear-wise, you're going to want to get might and speed, as well as attack to melee units. This is the most important stat in the game, the attack to melee units or attack to Uruk-hai units. We need to boost the Alchemist's bottom line, okay? But yeah, might, speed, and attack damage, okay? Those are your primary items. Might, 2.26 per level, focus 1.67 per level, and speed 1.91 per level, all well above average. He is a strong tier 3 commander. Skill-wise, this is what you really want to see, I'm sure. Like I said in the combat report breakdown, the first skill you're going to get is the Black Captain. It's going to give you 30% bonus damage dealt by your Orcs, Uruk-hai, Evil Men, and Trolls. It's going to give them 2 HP, which is key because your Uruk-hai are paper mache cannons, okay? Here's Convener, available at Respect level 0 as well. 7 points in here, so your first 22 points are going to go into Black Captain and Convener. Your next 22 points are going to go into the Respect level 3 title, the Ring Wraith. It's going to give you additional 30% burn damage dealt by your Alchemists. And then Nazgul Screech is going to be stunning 2 enemies on round 1, and then inflicting a 4,000 to 6,000 damage nuke on each of them going into round 2. Really, you want it for the stun. Like I said, the Alchemists completely explode upon contact, so the longer they can stay alive, the better. With any additional points you have, you're going to drop back down and grab Morgul Commander for reducing the damage taken by your Orcs and Uruk-hai units. Lord of Nazgul is another good bet if you don't want to put points into Morgul Commander and you're fighting against like Legolas or maybe an enemy Lurtz or something like that. You may want to max out Lord of the Nazgul and reduce the enemy damage Commander deals by 30% and give a chance to stun him. Alright. You can max out Black Captain, Convener, Ring Wraith, and Nazgul Screech by level 41. Okay? Now, going into the next talents, you do not need Defense Break. You do not need Inflame. You do not need Morgul Poison with any of the builds that I know on this guy with the units currently in the game. Maybe later, it'll be worth talking about. Right now, it's not. The respect level 5 tree here. This is completely useless for PvP. Fell beasts are terrible in PvP. They sound nice, but their overall damage and survivability and their weakness against archers makes them extremely weak against good faction commanders. All of the good factions have extremely strong archer units, so the fell beasts being flying, taking 30% bonus damage from ranged, is not ideal. But if you are going to use fell beasts, it's going to give your Witch King a nice 45 focus and speed buff here, and it's going to decrease the enemy commander's might and focus by 45, as well as give your fell beast stun immunity. Chaotic retreat pairs very well with the fell beasts. You do not need defense break or armor break with the burn damage build we just talked about. So only get this with fell beasts. Dishearten is a great skill. It's going to give the enemy units 21% less damage dealt. This, combined with Morgul Commander, can give you some half-decent survivability to your orcs and Uruk-hai units. This will also help counter the range damage taken increased by your fell beasts, okay? This is a very strong skill to use, so get this before you get Chaotic Retreat. Grab Dishearten, okay? Do not use fell beasts for PvP at this time. Like I said, they can be very strong in PvE. They are not PvP units. Do not use them in PvP. You will lose them all. It'll be terrible. All right. So, that's the build, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. This is my favorite commander in the game. I hope you like him as much as me. There are several commanders on the good side and the evil side that hard counter the Witch King. I'm not going to go into detail on those right now. You have to stay tuned for the future videos on those guys. But he is a monster. He is not difficult to counter, but if you don't counter him, he will absolutely decimate your entire army because he is a glass cannon with no defensive capabilities. But he does enormous damage with his units, okay? So, that's it. Give me the like and sub. I love you guys long time. Randy out, baby.